You are watching. Pause. We pause for a second or two. How do we keep life coherent when so much is changing? This is episode 247, Writing Book on Pausing. Last week, I finished writing a first draft of a book on pausing. The book will be the first book, to my knowledge, ever written on pausing, or at least the first book written on pausing in the shape that I have formulated. And today's episode will be dedicated to me reflecting upon how the writing is going, and to include you, the viewer, in the process of this first book on pausing being written. What is obvious to both me and you at this moment is that I'm feeling nervous about it. It would seem that writing a book, any kind of book, is to make quite a claim. And it would also seem that I can feel now, as I'm sitting here talking about it, that since pausing is so central to what I'm doing, writing a book on it becomes important. It's about taking myself seriously. It's about showing myself that what I have to offer is worth putting down on paper. It is about showing that what I have to offer is worth spreading. The emotional situation of today's episode is our long-term situation. It's about when we think about our future. It's about when we make plans for it, when we feel worried about it, or just feel that there's a sense of urgency, that we care about our future. That is our long-term situation. And the emotional skill of today's episode is specific skill sketch. It is when we put down pen to paper what our plans are, what our thoughts about the future are. And by so doing, we make them more real. Writing a book is a great version of specific skill sketch. It is a big undertaking to not only jot down one or two thoughts, but try to compose something at length, something coherent at length. Something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Something with an introduction and something with closing words. It has this sort of finality to it. It's a very strong symbol to actually write a book. Before, I have written a couple of fictional books, plays and the like, but nothing with the intention of actually spreading it. Only from me to me. But now with pausing, it would feel wrong not to spread it. So yes, it is nervous, yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's what needs to be done. So, what about the process? How has this writing been? Usually, I sit down here and I make episodes on different topics. Some topics are close to ourselves and other topics are more macro society. And some topics are linking the two. But still, every episode is just one topic. And in each episode, there is no need to put it in such an comprehensive structure. It can sort of, one episode can in one sense say one thing, and another episode can in a sense contradict what the other episode just said. And it doesn't feel odd for either me or you, the viewer, because the format allows for it. But in a book, that is not really the case. If something in the beginning of a book contradicts too harshly something in the end of a book, it will not really, the message will not really come across. So writing about pausing in a comprehensive book has been somewhat different from talking about pausing on an episode-to-episode basis, such as what we're doing now. So, about the book. It's gonna be a short book. It's gonna be about, depending on format, it's gonna be about 50 to 80 pages long. And the book doesn't go that deep into any specifics. There are specifics, but only specifics that make the comprehensive whole just that, comprehensive. So it's going to be a book sort of presenting an initial overview of what pausing is as a skill, as a practice, as a phenomenon. What is pausing? That's what the book is about. So each chapter in the book is quite brief. Logically, the book starts out with an introduction to pausing, some definitions. And then the book moves on to describing the framework of pausing, the pause framework of emotional skills that we talk about here on this show. And then in the book we move through systematically the different parts of the framework, and closing the book with putting it all together. And basically that's it. So it's quite a straightforward book with some definitions, the parts of the whole, and then putting it all together. So a pretty straightforward introductory book to pausing. And it was a nice part of the experience was that as I was writing it, I started with a couple of very simple definitions of what pausing is. So the book starts out with just stating that pausing is the practice of taking a second or two to recognize what is going on. And we also state that the practice of pausing is that whenever we get a hunch that something interesting or puzzling might be going on, we pause for a second or two. And that's it. That's the initial definitions of the book, those two. And then all the different topics, all the different situations we move throughout the book is sort of following naturally from those two definitions. And it was interesting for me to start out with two simple definitions and then sort of bringing in these different situations, these different aspects of life, and sort of linking them logically, one after another. And having written about one thing, then logically the next thing gets its tone from how the previous tone was. So quite similar to music, that in a melody the tones sort of follow on each other in this sort of path, like that. And it was a really nice experience, actually. It was very fun to see how this sort of melody or this path went here and there, never breaking, always keeping this sort of unbroken line. And then how this line started in one place and then ends in one way another place, but also ends in the same place as we started. So like a circle almost. That was nice. And now, the next step of the process is to just allow the book to breathe. So I've just put it aside. And I will not look at it for a month, I have decided. And then in a month's time, I will read it all over again. And I will proofread and I will change if there is something that does not make sense. And perhaps add if there seems to be lacking something. Shouldn't be too much, maybe a couple of small things. And then, after having gone through it one more time, I will write a preface, which will have a somewhat different tone from the rest of the book. And my ambition with this preface, the book on pausing is about pausing. And it's sort of as professional as possible. But my ambition is to write a preface that is introducing me, the writer. A bit about myself, why I pause, why I find pausing so useful, so urgent. And then, once you, the future reader, has sort of established your view on me, then you sort of, my ambition, my hope, is that you will be able to more think about pausing and how it relates to you. If also I have given you some sense of who I am in the beginning. Because if I would not write anything about myself in the beginning, then you, the reader, would try to find out who I am throughout the text. And that would divert attention from pausing, and I don't want that. So a brief preface about me, so you can think about yourself learning how to pause and what pausing could be for you. That's what's interesting. So that's the next step. 1 month of doing nothing and then writing that preface. Mm. Mm. That's it for today. Thank you.